Great. Warmly welcome to NordicBAN webinar discussing angel activity in Stockholm, a little bit Sweden as well. And today we're going to do the discussion with Stoaf, Stockholm Affärsänglarnas Anette Nordvall and Lennart Ohlsson. So here we got the presentation of the angels on board. So maybe a quick introduction about yourself, and if Anette, maybe you could start.
I'm a business angel here in Sweden. I do tech investment. I've done that for the past 30 years. Started to invest together with Stockholm Business Angels back in 2011, 2012. Invested in both funds, Start 1 and Start 2, and are active here in Sweden and then also in the Nordic, and are currently a board member and then also a co-founder of NordicBAN, together with Stoaf and with FIBAN and the other Nordic and the new Nordic and Baltic countries. Great
to have you on board. And Lennart?
Well, my background was as a researcher, and I happened to be invited to Stanford, and there I met venture capital as an industry. I've been participating in a number of business angels. All of them have been incorporated, and I've seen how they make mistakes and so on, and so did Stoaf in its first fund. So that led to pretty thorough changes in the second fund. I'll talk to that later.
Very good.
My background is as a researcher, and I'm about to publish a book on the Stoaf methodologies.
But that's not the first book. You already published a bunch of books.
Yeah, I have published about 20 books.
Excellent. Okay, good. Looking forward to hear more about that. So, and as mentioned, so Stoaf, if I shortly describe, we have like how we see it from the Nordic, 3 categories of angel networks and groups. And maybe in the other end of these 3 is this kind of association, larger associations and networks, like for example FIBA, with almost 700 angels. So it's a network for investors, but not investing itself. In the other end, we have these very light versions like Nordic Makers and J12, which maybe don't have that kind of a heavy fund structure, but it's like a WhatsApp group. So like Nordic Makers, when more than 4 individuals say yes, they call it a Nordic Makers investment. But then in the middle, as we have, for example, a Stoaf, which is an angel fund. So you have a structure and the process and invest large amount to many companies from each fund. And now it's, if I understood correctly, it's a third fund just published and now getting active since 2010, more or less, when the first one was.
Well, we started in 2008, so we invested the first time 2009, and then it's been going on. But we did the final investment this spring in Start 2, which is the second fund. So now we're structuring up for the third fund, a SciTech fund, which is a larger, and I think that Lennart will explain a little bit more on how you can participate in it and what the initial thought process is. But Stoaf in itself, to jump into sort of the first question sort of, is that we have been 49 angels investing into a fund that invests in 3 to 5 tech investments and biotech and life science, IP secured, preferably investments for about 3 years. That's the investments period.
5
years. And then we continue we sort of do first investment, and then we have follow-on capital. And then there's a growth period for 5 to 7 years. And then we want to sort of end the fund within 10 years. And then, so you actually, it's a sort of like a VC structure, but not really, because we don't take large management fees. We take a small percentage out of it, which is 2%. And then you actually are calling funds every year. So you have a commitment for a 5-year investment period, and then you call every year on that capital. So
very good. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get in the details in a little while. Let's and what we've done with NordicBAN, with the help of the representatives we now have online. We have also from Connect Sweden. We have Christine. So let's have a quick look what we gathered so far, what's going on. So as NordicBAN covers currently the 11 more or less angel networks and groups, and so on a yearly basis we see about 1,000 startups pass through the angel. This is just a visible ecosystem. About 1,700 angels are visible in the Nordic Baltics, as we call it, the new Nordics. So very active. And what comes to some of the numbers, what we have, so this is all published on NordicBAN's site. So some of the Swedish activities, so we have, as mentioned, Stoaf, Connect Sweden. Sting is a local accelerator angel group with a fund as well in the Stockholm region. Nordic Makers, it's more or less a Danish group of angels, but also includes Swedes. Stockholm Affärsänglar, Keiretsu Forum also is a group of 100 angels in the Stockholm region, a larger level. And Springfield Project, Angel R J12. In addition, what we just published is a new website. Let me just share that here as well. So we have on NordicBAN's site, I hope you can see this now. There should be on nordicban.net/Sweden. This is the first draft we published about trying to summarize a country ecosystem for business angels. So this site covers now the first version of who are the main angels visible in the ecosystem and their role and industry interest. And second, we have mapped all the angel, the visible angel groups or networks, so those with a website. And in addition to the list, there are E40, Nordic Light Capital, SE Angels. So more of those, our job to map those and benchmark that to the ecosystem. In addition, we have the main startup events suitable for angels, like Connect to Capital, arranged in Gothenburg in February. Stockholm Tech is next week in Stockholm, gathering a lot of angels. So a lot of interesting events suitable for angels. The main accelerators, incubators, hubs, and of course, main startup-related news channels. The digital Break It does a lot of news. I'm not sure which one of these does that in English, but some part it covers, and then the public sector represents. So this is a summary that we are now published. I will update that and hopefully cover more of the activity what comes to suitable in angels and inspire more individuals to travel around and hopefully attend the events. And if I'll go back to this, sharing my screen so we can take the slideshow again. And here you should see my next, so contact information. If nothing, then that's also suitable. But let's get back to the discussion of, then again, Stoaf. So if you could maybe, Lennart and Anette, start with covering some of the main activity as you see from the typical, some numbers. What kind of investment sizes, typical angel profile, and so on.
So I'll describe a little bit about our investments. We decided to close the fund after the 14th venture and invested in that in January. But another interesting venture popped up, so we are now in the process of seeing if we're going to invest in that. We did our due diligence and took our decisions in February, but a big company has come in and want to be a lead investor, and they take a long time to do their due diligence. But I think we will have 15 ventures in the portfolio, and there are basically 6 in life sciences, 3 in advanced industrial technologies, 3 in advanced ICT, and the rest started as business to consumer ventures, but have been pivoted to business to business. One of them is sold at a loss, but apart from that, we haven't any losses.
Okay. And what are the numbers? So with what numbers, what kind of profiles are accepted to the fund, and what's the ticket sizes?
In the beginning of the investment period, we typically invested 500,000 ourselves, and our angels tended to invest around the same amount, so about 1 million. And then over time...
That's Swedish crowns, so about 100,000 euros more or less together.
And over time, the amount in the first investment round has increased. So in the later part of the period, typically 1 million Swedish from the fund, so that's 100,000 euro. And then a little bit less from the angels. But maybe 180,000 or something.
Okay.
The fund itself had a committed capital of 25 million Swedish, and the angels have so far directly invested almost 20 millions.
Okay, so
on the side that you can actually add on to any of the investments that we do. So you can always increase your personal share in the investment with additional opportunities. So we set them as, is it 50,000 Swedish krona is a minimum for a ticket, which is 5,000 euros as an additional, and you can buy additional tickets, how many you sort of want, to a limit. There is a limit, of course, depending on the capital that they're looking for in the company and so forth.
In order to get an idea of how our funding has multiplied, I made a calculation, relatively rough. Parallel with our investments in the early stage rounds, there has been 4 times as much capital added. So our now around 50 millions, 55 millions is multiplied by 5 during the early stage rounds. Then 6 of our ventures have either through stock listings or in big rounds comparable with Series A rounds in the size, added 300 millions. And that process is, of course, still not finished. So and I call that amount an accelerator of our early stage investments.
Very good. Okay, so it's, if I got correctly, like the fund size is about 2.5 million euros per each fund. You get on board as an angel. You put, what's the minimum to be part of the fund? What was the ticket scale there?
First it was 50,000 euros, but then came the new European legislation on alternative investment funds. So it was raised to 100,000 euros.
Okay, so 100,000 euros to get board of the fund. Okay, and there's the option to have co-investors or angels there alongside.
Because we decided to be registered under the new law, unlike most of the angel companies and micro capital funds.
Okay, so good. So, but the structure is there. So maybe, Anette, if you could open up a little bit, you've been active around, you've been listed as one of the most active angels on the digital as well. So how do you see like the Stockholm angel ecosystem since you came back from the US and just mirror that with the Stoaf activity as well?
Well, when I moved back in 2010, there was no angel activity at all, I believe, in Stockholm. It wasn't seen as any angel investment, or very, very small. It was who you knew, and then you received some funds from them. So after, I know that Connect has been very active in Sweden, all over Sweden for a long time, trying to boost sort of investment in early stage, but more to cater startups than to cater services back then to the angels. They have started a lot of education and so forth. But when I met with Lennart and Claes and Fredrik, who are the GPs of at least the second fund, all of them, it was very clear to me that both Fredrik and especially Lennart has so much background and interest, and because he had written a lot of books regarding best practice venture capital taken from the Silicon Valley kind of ecosystem, the way that you can participate and review your own investments and get sort of power into it helped me to then forward into a much healthier ecosystem of investments, scrutinizing what good investments are together in a group with like-minded, which is really important when you're doing angel investment, because it's all about knowledge and it's all about experience. So if you have a pile of money, to put that into a company and believe the founders to state that they're going to be a unicorn, it's not really what is happening. It's more of an education that you can then both make sure that you level your investment opportunities based on what you can lose and how much you are supposed to add to it for a greater success. So the angel network in itself is more educated today, I would say. Also because of the different, what we call arenas, where you show them already on the slides, where we have TechFest coming up here in September. There's multiple places for both angels to meet up and investors to meet up and understand what's hot and what's not on the market. And then also finding more fine-tuned and well-spoken and well sort of reviewed innovation ideas through the accelerators and the different platforms and so forth. So in 2014, when SUP 46, which was the first sort of more tech innovation co-working space started, that was the newest platform that we had here, especially in Stockholm, where you applied in to participate in a network where you can find like-minded investors in early stage technology, and then sort of mirror to the rest of Europe, and then also, of course, to Silicon Valley. So I think that sort of fostered a large group of people that wanted to participate, but weren't really the entrepreneurs, but could sort of, with the experience, help the ecosystem to grow. And then also, I participated for Stoaf in lots of panels and discussion platforms and so forth to educate other angels, and then also obviously trying to help innovators and what we now call entrepreneurs to fine-tune their business ideas, and then understanding that there is a market out there. People, if you have thought sort of in an innovation, and you would say that, oh, nobody else has thought of it, it's probably more than 10 that have thought the same thing, but there just need to be a really big fire under those people's feet to be able to actually maneuver into the next category of finding other people's money.
And how do you see then again, because the ecosystem will become more visible, and definitely like the image from outside Sweden is that, of course, it's the hub for these unicorns. Each of Spotify and Untitled, they each had an angel on board from the very beginning, but those have been so-called individuals, and if I understood correctly, those are not part of any network or this kind of a visible group. So it's more these kind of a groups of individuals who stick together, but they don't make themselves visible. Is this correct? And how do you see that development?
I think they're both visual, but then back in the days, there were no platform to be visual on. So there was no one to sort of state that I put money into in the beginning of this company. That came out when I think Jane Wallerud especially did her Blue Tail exit. And it became enormous, well aware of that. She actually put some funds into the beginning, coming from Ericsson, and it was an Ericsson team and all that stuff. So back then it was who knew who. Now there is a platform where you can actually go out and search for other people in those networks that you mentioned already, or go into Connect or to Sting or to any of these people and then interact with them. But it's also a pay it kind of forward attitude into it. It's a lot of free sort of tips and advices and so forth to people that have good ideas and that they want you to be on board, because it's like everybody knows, it's starting sort of a process of getting married, and then you're supposed to have a scheduled exit, which should be sort of similar to a divorce. And during that time, you need to add value and especially more money. So you started with capital from other people and you don't have an innovation that is making money from the beginning, which I suggest that you have a customer and develop with, so you actually have revenue, or someone else is paying for it, rather than going to angels, because that gives you more power as an entrepreneur as well, to come with a better idea, have a better valuation, get in much more capital on a higher level, proven the concept that you have, rather than running around with fantastic ideas that is their technology is not there, or there's not.
Very good, very good. But you mentioned sub 46, and on the wall of investors, what comes to sub 46, there are institutional investors and VC. We know Northzone, Creandum, and EQT, these big players in the ecosystem playing with these key individual angels. And then there are individual names, but there are no angel networks or groups on the wall, for example, of sub 46. Why is it so?
The reason why we're not on the wall is because we don't really invest in their innovation. We're looking into, we haven't, like Lennart said, all the consumer products that we have done has become business-to-business ventures. There is need to be more higher IP value in it in the beginning when we build a portfolio. We get a lot of referrals. We look into more than I would say more than 500 companies a year, as a group towards us, and then we look into a bunch of other ones. But usually there has come a bunch of good opportunities with Sting, and we have co-invested with Sting back in the days in the first round. Didn't we do that?
One.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we invested with one of the Sting ventures back in the day. So there's come some good opportunities in that. During in the sort of mid section, 15 and 14, 15 and 16, I think the valuation went stupid in Sweden. So everybody they didn't have any revenue, and they didn't have anything. They didn't have a MVP or anything like that, but still they were probably worth, 4 million euros. And our investment criteria then is that, okay, so around 10 million Swedish SEK, 1 million euros, and then we are for 10% as a first sort of initial investment in it, and then we want to grow and develop. We can go in so much earlier than other groups does. And you mentioned Creandum and Northzone, and yes, they do say that they invest in early stage, but they also want to see revenue before they actually invest, because they have LPs, and we are angels that are the LPs, so we don't have external money from anything. So we can higher risk with better reward.
Okay, well, good. Well, you mentioned some individuals, so if you could maybe highlight some of those key angel profiles in the Stockholm region who currently is driving the activity onwards. So who should the world know what comes to Stockholm angel investors?
Well, if you're interested in real angel investing in a portfolio way, obviously Lennart is the highest profile, because he's started many angel networks, also Västkustens Affärsänglar, and he participated in getting Keiretsu Nordics from Silicon Valley over here to Sweden together with Ted Wennerhage. Claes, who's the CEO here at Stoaf, he's also a very good profile, as well as the GP Fredrik Rundqvist, who is a Swedbank executive from purchasing. And obviously I've been helping a bit with the commotion here of setting Stoaf on the map. But you have, I mentioned Jane Wahlrud before, and her full family is actually investing through their sort of family office. You have Lena Apler down in Gothenburg, together with some other mentioned people prior to the conference when we started together with Christina. I believe that Bo Mattsson, who did a very nice exit back in 2017 with Sint, is a good investor. He's doing AI and robotics. So just not mentioning what people are that has money or have an interest or an aptitude to invest and risk invest in early stage. Everyone needs to understand that we're doing different and have a specific interest in different sides of technology. So I receive from all kinds of health tech opportunities or food tech or reg tech and stuff like that. And that's not really what I'm interested in, because I need to understand the technology on my private investment outside from Stoaf. I want to participate in the opportunity to help it grow. That's the reason why you bring me on board, not really because I have because I invest and I don't care. It's because I believe in something. So I did a small investment in a company down in Lund called Unity, which is electronic cars, for example. That was a crowdfunding investment that I did because I believe in the concept for them to actually build the car and then continue in an extremely complicated industry, but a bunch of really good researchers all over Europe.
Very good.
So it's tech is what
exactly.
I.
Of course. So they're, of course, an angel investing very strongly, and you can see this is driven by the impact need and not just making money, as said, like working in a group and finding something exciting to support. So,
Yes.
so maybe we could continue on. And Lennart, as mentioned, you've been founding and part of helping out a lot of regional angel activity as well, but in Stockholm and outside Stockholm as well. So how do you see what's been created so far, and how do you see the angel ecosystem future in Stockholm, for example?
Well, as always, I have learned from the US how the development of angel networks looks like. And in the beginning, I too engaged in angel networks, but in general, they don't work out beyond the engagement of the top individuals. So, and then they tend to disappear. So that was the idea about joining an incorporated business angel company in Uppsala back in the 1980s. And that's what I have tried to catalyze by offering to educate founders of business angel companies in Sweden. So in the new setting, our third fund, we hope to organize a network of such business angel companies where we have, through education and advice, been able to form a common foundation in the form of language and in the form of methods. And my dream for the next fund is that we gather a number of business angel companies which in their parts of Sweden or in their investment focuses can cover basically everything that has long-term competitive advantages. And a lot of the activities in the Swedish business angel scene has come through the type of ventures which are relatively little technology and relatively much entrepreneurs and market people and famous media profiles who invest together. That has certainly created a lot of successful big companies, but they have much more failures than we have in our fields. So we invest more like a contrarian investor, as it is called in the organized stock market. So an example of that is that our worst year in investing in new ventures, we only made one investment. Our best year was 5 investments. So we stay flexible. And I think that's a good philosophy for new business angel companies because it gives them time to learn and not rush into new investments.
Very good. Okay. Maybe before, maybe Anette, also your views on the future of angel investing and the activity in Stockholm. Maybe, Lennart, could you just shortly describe the process from deal flow screening of startups to the very investment closing decision? So is it any company can apply to any of you guys? And then how does the screening evaluation, just in short?
Well, we have pre-selection with what I call absolute criteria, which means that one person alone can decide whether we pick it up or not. And then we have a second stage, which is more structured, and it's called selection, or in Swedish, filtering. There we require that at least 2 of our educated competence angels participate in the evaluation, put together a written report, which is 2 to 3 pages long, and that's brought to the deal flow committee for decision whether we should do a partial due diligence of the venture. And if so decided, a general partner has to lead the next stage. And this stage involves at least 2 competence angels and 1 general partner. And that is supposed to bring a more comprehensive report of the venture. And when completed, it will be a full due diligence of the business case. And meanwhile, the general partners have started to look at the investment case, because we separate from the start the business case analysis from the investment case analysis. They are 2 very different methodological parts. And of course, once we start with the investment case, we also start with negotiations with the venture. And that when we enter the SciTech fund, the 3rd fund, with a much better capitalization, we intend to be a lead investor in most cases from the start.
Very good.
And the reason for that is that we have a lot of competent angels that have educated. And in the management company, there are 8 people, including Anette and me. And then we have a dozen certified business angels that can help doing business case analysis.
Okay, very good. So you have, and as you mentioned, you have educated angels. So being part of Stoaf, you also get part of the education of yours and the team and sharing. So you make sure that the attendees is not passively just part of the fund, so they have the opportunity to learn a lot on the angel level. And that's important. So pre-screening, then having these kind of evaluated individuals on board, having the deal flow group do the final decision of due diligence, and then taking the steps. So quite, I could imagine a good process for taking it forward.
And it also gives an opportunity to use the same kind of language and the same kind of understanding what the language is all about, sort of when we do use certain terms of if it's an upside or a downside investment or a multiple, whatever the X's are, and it sort of has a natural follow-on on how much capital we are actually putting in and the reason why, because we have a certain category already aligned. And that's all part of the opportunity to invest in a group like this, that it's a group learning, it's structured, but it's also gives you a lot of good input that you would not really have if you're not been working with VC before or any other family office kind of structure.
Very good. Okay, but how do you see, sorry.
I should add that if we have referrals from a trusted person or organization, that then we take it through the general partner group and decide whether to do a quicker due diligence on that. Often referrals are also connected with fixed terms for investment, so we can do a full analysis relatively fast.
Very good. Okay, so that sounds like trust in everywhere, especially in angel investing, as it's so high risk level. Half of, at least the statistics, half of all the angel investments fail, like it or not, and still each one should be the next. So this kind of a unicorn level. So it's a high risk. So trust plays a big role. Also investing locally, is it just 1 hour away as a typical angel investing, or cross border, just from outsiders? And of course, Stockholm and Sweden has a big interest when it comes to angel investing, and especially the East Nordics. Just visiting the Baltic Angel Investment Conference this few days ago, and there's a huge interest of finding co-investors from Stockholm, from Sweden, to match with the local and increase the investment level. So how do you see, Anette, the next phase for angel investing in Stockholm? You mentioned educating, trust, all this.
Well, I believe that we are getting into, I had the opportunity, as Lennart also had, but to have a fellowship towards Stanford and Nordic Innovation House in Silicon Valley in 2016. And one of my main objectives, and the reason why I sort of received this fellowship, was to understand and also sort of map the ecosystem in Silicon Valley on investments, and see the differences between, or understand the differences and challenges between Sweden as I knew it, and which is more Stockholm maybe, and Malmö, Göteborg, towards then also how they invest in Silicon Valley. And it's not much difference, but I think that the main sort of outcome out of the trip is that people really invest together with people that they know. And I feel that through NordicBAN, we have discussed that several times too, that it's easier to do less, as we also do with referrals from networks and so forth, where we get investments, that then you already have sort of an upper hand on that the venture or the person that you're investing with comes with good intentions, and they already have done some kind of due diligence. But if you look into Band of Angels, for example, who is a huge member organization where there is no fund connected to it.
Yes,
but,
there is.
Well, they have a fund connected to it, but it's also in verticals. So they have, I think, 11 different verticals that they only invest in. So some guys or girls, they can just invest in consumer goods products, or other in life science or whatever. But it's very structured, very commonly looking like FIBAN is doing, producing good ventures, not only whatever, and then also the opportunity to pitch to a larger group, that people that have invested together before will invest again together. I know that we have a lot of people, or not a lot, but several angels that I've been discussing with, that are coming from different other networks that I've met during the years as active angel here in Stockholm, that they are now saying, well, I'm tapped out, I've invested in the amount of companies that I can hold because I don't have more money, or I don't have an opportunity to invest in more than 4 or 6 companies, because the time, I only have 24 hours in my day, and I want to, when I invest, I also want to participate in the company. And then not understanding when you enter into the investment that, I mean, hello, it takes a long time to build a company. It's not the unicorn after just like 3 years. It takes up to 5, 7, almost 10 years for a company to get to that point, if there is a point for you to actually do an exit out of it. Because a lot of companies feel fat and happy after a while when they have revenue. They know that if they employ another person, they get an additional money into their system because of the invoicing and stuff like that. And they can only handle 30 people or 40 people, and they are very happy and feel that they're successful. But my investment goals is not for them to be successful in and being in Swedish we call it levebrödsbolag. I don't know. Lifestyle venture, rather than that 10x opportunity where we can get out, because now they're sort of working around their own company and so forth. And which for me as an investor then doesn't really work. So I feel that there is a lot of has been a lot of promises over that you can do quick money, but there is no such thing. It's hard work, long term. It's a lot of tenacity, and then also understand that your input is as valuable as it is the first year when you put the money in. It's even more valuable year 2, 3, 5, and 7, because that's when it actually comes to be really complicated to drive the energy company forward. So sort of not answering your question, but yet answering.
that was a political answer, but so you feel like the understanding of the angel investing risk are massive, and doing it alone, at least the close experience from Finland, like this kind of a group investing is very now the challenge is that Stoaf is a closed fund in that sense, but how can angels interested be part of those educations? Do you have open sessions in Stockholm for anybody to attend, or where should interested angels attend, especially international, outside from Stockholm to come over? Is there anyone in English, and are there open sessions for angels to meet?
We haven't set up open sessions yet, but there are education going on. You're breaking up, Claes. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, something has happened with the sound.
From you.
And
it says that our internet connection is unstable. I don't.
Okay, let me take it more structured. This year I have taught to 4 new business angel companies, or groups that have the intention to start business angel companies. And I will continue to do so when we recruit angels to the SciTech Fund. We will go up from now 49 to a maximum of 100, and a number of them wants to do education, so we will provide that. From other Nordic countries, it's quite possible to give the course in English. My wife is American, so I'm used to talking English, and the material I have is easily transferable to English. However, saying that, I must mention that the new book is in Swedish, and it is the book which is the most practical of the 2 books I have written on the methods.
But the best practice, venture capital, you can actually order that book online.
Yes.
Through Print Direct or
Books on Demand.
Books on Demand.
Yes.
But this seems to be an interesting Scandinavian challenge, that all the angel level activity which is visible, it's very often local language. So in that sense, like in Denmark, the angel activity has been very Danish, and the same in what comes to Sweden, it's very Swedish. So it's very hard from an outsider angel to come and join into this kind of a structured group of activity. Same goes to Connect's trainings. They are now held in Swedish. But yeah, this is just maybe something, I guess, maybe for the next steps as well. Maybe more English will be used as the standard. I'm not sure.
But I mean, then also like Christine from Connect, she mentions that there is an education that they hold as well for angel investment. We also do when you come to Lennart, it's also fund structure, and there's a lot of different attributes into a later stage. So there's an easy, quick, not a quick, but it's a first theme kind of investment with your personal structure, how you can do it. But then it goes on in more practical details, and then how you build portfolios and so forth, which is, I think those are the most interesting things. But if you don't take the first ones, you will never understand the language, and you will never connect it to whatever is done before. So it's more of an undertaking to educate everyone. But also to mention that Stoaf has in the past 2 funds, we're only invested in investments where we could travel 2 hours by car or train, just because for board positions and stuff like that as well, and to have not so far connections. But the latter 3, I think, were down in Gothenburg.
Yes, we have done 2 in Gothenburg, and they both came within 1 year, and that has to do with that we have increased our willingness to take risks. So, for instance, one of them is a pharma company, and we never wanted to invest in pharma from the outset of Stoaf 2. We said that we don't invest in materials or pharma technologies. And as we ended the Stoaf 2, if the 15th venture will come through, then we have invested in 2 pharma and 1 material science venture. So, you know, you develop as you go along and as you learn. And in the next stage, we will cover all Sweden. And we have said that 15% of the capital we assemble is open for investments in the Nordic countries. But we have an extra condition there, because we understand that we will have to take a complementary position in the ventures and not a lead investment position. And therefore, we must have a lead investor that we trust.
Very good. Okay, well, good. So we have received like the education level, and it seems like the summary interest is that like investors, especially on the angel level, need to be educated, because typically if there's a corporate background or entrepreneurial background, you're not a professional investor in that sense. So in average, I think more education. So maybe we could open, if there's anybody with any comments or questions there from those online, that I think that's also, please be prepared or write it in the chat. I think maybe as the last question for those interested now in the Stockholm Angel ecosystem, Anette, what would be the main places now to go? And I assume Stoaf is open for those interested to join the fund in theory, but where should the outsider angels now come and visit to meet Stockholm Angels?
Obviously, we have. We're more than happy to greet them here to find opportunities here at Stoaf, to see if they would be interested in collaborating in the fund. I have, together with NordicBAN, also set up a mapping project, which actually is mapping Swedish innovation and then do the same thing in the Nordics and the Baltics as well, to find the best innovation when it comes to, for example, the areas of expertise as in robotics or in technical, any kind of tech innovation, and obviously also health and med tech that we're doing. But anything tech related is going to be mapped throughout the 70 educational centers and research centers here in Sweden, as well as the ecosystems around Mink and Connect down in Göteborg, and moving forward higher up in Sweden than we actually have been looking before, I think, I know. Otherwise, there is a schedule on the agenda that you put up, or the research that we have done, of different opportunities to visit. So to plan around any of the events in March, Connect to Capital is going to happen down in Gothenburg, which I really suggest strongly for any Nordic investor to participate in. It's a nice group of people. The event has become much larger than it's been before, and it's actually drawing good ventures as well. Really nice speakers, and it's a 2-day event. So I really strongly suggest that. TechFest is coming up on Monday, starting actually on Sunday already. And it's set to be about almost 3 days in a row, where you actually have using certain venues. Sub 46 is still a go-to destination, as well as Epicenter here in Stockholm. But there is a lot of other co-working spaces and other flexible groups that you can go to. You have a health hub. The fintech hub is not really existing anymore. Universities, KTH, Handels, SSES, the School of Economics, and Karolinska Institute has all their innovation centers where you could go to. And then you have Esprit, which is more of a launching platform for research innovations connected to EVA. And then obviously SWCA, which is the private equity member organization. They also have events. So there's a lot of things to actually do. It depends on which area you're interested in, and you can find them under the Nordic Business Network country map, which is pretty good. I mean, Stockholm Tech Fest is just once a year, but they also have a meetup every month, every Monday or Tuesday, I believe, every month. So, but check out Eventbrite and Meetup, and then Google for entrepreneurial things. You can do a good filter there, and you will find some really nice opportunities for people. And you can always email info@stoaf.se, and then we'll respond and see if we can greet you. But it would be great if you do it a couple of days ahead of time, preferably 2 weeks, so we can make sure that we have something good to hook it up on. But we can always dial in, and we can have discussions and so forth as well. It's certainly sitting over something like this, so we don't need to travel by plane so much.
Very good. Okay, so some highlight events in that. Great.
I'd like to add something. We, of course, invite investors to our third fund from the other Nordic countries. And so far, we don't have any at all. Yesterday and 2 days earlier, I've been in discussion with an investor from Holland who is going to invest. We have rejected 2 Chinese funds because they put up unreasonable demands. And there are still 2 or 3 Chinese investors that we have ongoing discussions with. And there are also American investors that we talk to. But no Nordic so far, so we are very happy if we could get Nordic investors. And then, of course, as a service, we provide both co-investment rights in our ventures on their own decisions. And we can also organize education.
And referral in deal flow, I mean, from them, from both ways. So it comes because we have set aside funds for investment in the Nordics. So that will work.
Very good. Okay, but that, so at least, but still you go through those applications, so you don't take random individuals to join. So in that sense, it's a high profile service.
Well, there are legal requirements. You know, the minimum investment is 1 million Swedish, 100,000 euro, to qualify as a semi-professional investor.
Very good. Okay, so thank you very much. So any questions, comments from anyone online who would like to add something? Or someone feeling like something was left out? So we had, as mentioned, a NordicBAN currently having Stoaf and Connect Sweden and Forum Nordics, part of one of those angel networks we have online. So that's something to check out from the site more in detail. Anything additional? I think then we are ready to wrap it up. So thank you so much for the comments. Stockholm, then again, so a lot of activities over there, and of course Stoaf, their local active player, and let's see what the next activities will be. So thank you very much for the chat, Lennart and Anette, and those joining in, and let's stay tuned. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.